Hey, and welcome to episode 40 Property Mastermind podcast with Hilary Saxton. This week, wow, how important is a good standard of finish on your property development? Episode 40, you're going to learn a lot about what you need to look out for, the things you need to do, the difference between finishes and defects, and so much more. Got the amazing Bob Andersen with me again this week. Let's jump into episode 40. Hey, episode 40. How important is a good standard of finish on your property development? As usual, giving away a copy of Property, I should know it by now, of Secrets of Property Millionaires Exposed. Oh, it's a
That's
secret.
where you can't remember it.
If you would like to win a copy of this, it's a fabulous read. It's all the different, many different property strategies by different people and why they think theirs is great. It's definitely worth a read. Just subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave us a fab comment or comment on Apple. You can find us on Spotify as well. But if you'd like to win a copy of this, that's all you've got to do. So go ahead, you go in the draw to win a copy and I will send it out to you. Last week's winner, or the person who wins it this week, is Meg Mackay. We had a few women lately. How good is that?
Well, women are strong on property.
They are strong on property. So Meg Mackay, you expect to see this in your letterbox pretty soon. Okay, let's jump into it.
Let's do it.
Sir Bob.
Yeah. So how have you been?
Yeah.
Haven't seen you for a while.
I haven't seen you either. Where have you been all day?
Well,
I had to book in a podcast. I said, can we please?
important stuff. I'm an important man.
Yes, you are an
So
important man.
I went to the gym.
Yes, you went to
which
the
is
gym.
important.
Yes.
And more importantly, I went to Bunnings and bought up big time.
He lives at Bunnings. Is that just a man thing?
I got my own car park.
That wouldn't even surprise me. He's always there. What do you do there?
I got my own cashier too. She just waits for me to come.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Off to help my son Luke this weekend, building a deck.
That's right. I've got the whole weekend home alone.
You'll love it.
It'd be a little bit peaceful. Might be a little bit quiet.
What are you going to do?
There's a few things I want to do, actually. I've got a few things I'd like to tie up, some loose ends I'd like to get sorted. Yeah, well, we were away last weekend and I've got a bit of catching up to do.
We were in beautiful Orange in New South Wales.
We were.
Had a great 4 days down there.
And the crazy thing was we missed all the storms. So this is we've got another weekend of storms as well. So the Queensland, New South Wales crazy storms.
Yeah, it was great. I got sunburnt. Sadly, when the Brisbane's flooding and other parts, but that happens sometimes. Yeah, so I actually got sunburnt in Orange. Went down there, caught up with Midnight Oil. They stayed in the same hotel we did.
They did.
There he was.
We didn't.
Peter Garrett, all 7 foot of him.
We didn't even see them actually, but they were in the same hotel as us.
Yeah, they were avoiding us.
Yes, they probably heard us singing.
Heard about us.
And then next week we're in.
Well, next weekend to Hervey Bay.
Yes, of
for
all
the
places.
Are they the state or the regional championships of Toastmasters? Because you won your, I don't know, would you win your division?
Yeah, I run a couple of
whatever it is.
rounds, and now I'm going to the
You are.
finals. Going
Yeah.
to the finals. Wish
Won
me
the
luck.
preliminary rounds into the finals.
Yes, pretty
Good luck.
exciting. So yeah,
Well,
hopefully.
although it
I'd like to win.
doesn't take luck.
No, it takes a lot of work.
I've heard you're practicing.
I practice
There's a lot more than luck.
I
I think you're going to go really well.
practice in the shower.
You will go really well.
So I'm in the humorous competition because apparently I'm quite funny. But there you go. Funny to look at, perhaps. Who knows?
No.
Anyway, should we
great.
talk? Should we talk property
Let's get on to
development?
property.
We probably should.
You probably should.
So, Bob,
So,
give us your definition on the difference between. If we're thinking how important is a good standard of finish with your property development, and really that needs to be broken down into defects versus finishes. What's your breakdown?
Yeah,
on
actually, that's not a bad idea to do that. Well, defects, and it's hard to define defects because in most of our building contracts, we've got a thing called a defects liability period. So it's a period of time, could be 3, 6, even up to 12 months after the builder's finished, where they have to come back and fix defects. And that's fine having that in the contract, but it doesn't actually define in building contracts that I've seen exactly what a defect is. And so you can have major defects and minor defects. And I mean, a major defect would be something pretty serious, probably something structural. And often those sorts of defects go beyond the normal defects liability period. It's particularly structural, could be 6 years or whatever. But
isn't that the end? Is it 6 or 7 years is the end of the structural defect
well,
liability
it
period?
is. But I mean, there have been court cases that have gone beyond that, but none that I've been involved in, thank goodness. But if we're talking about normal defects, 3, 6, 12 months sort of thing, what actually is it? And look, pretty much a layman's thing for me is typically a defect. It's something that stops something from functioning correctly, or it's an obvious flaw in something. Now that's that's very much layman's. For instance, what do you see? Well, as soon as a builder's finished building, we normally do a final inspection. That's pretty important, the final inspection. Before, that's at practical completion. And that's where, a good builder will actually go through and do his own defects list. A good builder does. They don't wait for you to do it, but you should do it anyway. And you can get professional people in to do that.
Would you advise professional?
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, you can do it yourself, but you're going to miss a lot. You're not, it's not your job. It's not what you do. It's not your profession.
What is it like? Let's just go on let's just go on a duplex in
anywhere.
Yeah. What's a rough idea on the cost of a professional to do it?
Yeah, it's about $350 roughly. So that's what it is.
Worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, yeah. And look, you can find them. You could Google up final inspections, those sorts of things. People, some of them are ex-builders or whatever, they do them. Some do nothing but that, and those final inspections, and it is worth it to get them to do that. Obvious things that sometimes show up, and really a builder should pick this up before the inspection, but they don't. Things like a cracked tile. Sometimes I've seen when a plumber does up the flange. I
straight away that's when my head went to that straight away.
Yeah. When they do up the flange on a tap, and you've got the tile at the back. Well, if you over crank that flange, you can crack the tile, and that is a real pain.
Don't over crack your flanges.
No, don't ever over crank them at all. But
never over crack a flange. Yeah, I think if you wherever you're listening to this, try and even say that.
Well, that's a terrible thing to fix because they've already cut a hole in the tiles.
Yes.
And there's probably more than one tile involved. So then it's a bit of a job. The plumber, well, really the tiler will probably turn the water off and come and do the plumber's job, take the tap off. But just putting tiles back in that are cracked is a lot harder than laying them in the first place. And of course, the plumber will probably get blamed for it, which it was his fault. But the builder probably gets the tiler in to fix it. The tiler builds the builder builds the tiler.
Oh my gosh.
It's a bit messy. That's an example of something obvious. Runs in paint. You still see that. Or paint being missed. I did a Fort Townhouse project with my son Luke a couple of years ago now. The trades were good, but the painter was a shocker. And when I went through at the end, I went through with the professional, but I didn't need him to pick out the paint problems. And I said to the builder after it, I said, mate, was this, is your normal painter, was he off sick and you just grabbed somebody? And he said, no, he's my normal painter. And I said, well, make him unnormal, get rid of him, don't bring him back. And definitely don't have him on any of my jobs in future. It was a shocking job. He just missed so much. Say behind a downpipe, I can remember.
Oh, it's so...
missed it there. Runs in the paint. I think there was actually a building wardrobe he didn't even paint inside. It was just unbelievable. And I just couldn't believe it. But, yeah, the finishing trades are the ones that really show out. And by finishing trades, I'm talking about tilers and painters and those sorts of things.
The things that are visually, just visual, so visual, as opposed to when we're talking about defects. They're not always visual, are they?
No, and some of the defects you don't notice immediately because they can come into play. Let's say you've got a 6-month defects liability period. There will be some defects that don't actually show immediately and might start to show at month 3 or 4 or 5 or...
What about our friends recently with the latest deluge of rain, massive downpours, and their build, they didn't actually realise what had gone. Nothing to do with us and nothing to do with anything we had to do with, but that something had been built in reverse. What was it?
Yeah, and that was built a long time ago. So it was actually the role on one end of the roofing. It'd been put in reverse.
Put in wrong.
Yeah.
And they said it was almost like an apprentice must have done it and it had been
Yeah.
missed. And then the rain had gone into their house and just dripped down walls because there'd been so much rain.
But it took the incredible amount of rain and with the wind behind it that they had last week to actually show up.
Yeah.
I mean, it had rained for a couple of years on their house
And not
since
like
they
that.
finished it.
Yeah.
And it hadn't shown up.
But that actually falls under, that's a defect liability. Well, I mean,
Well,
it's a defect on the build, but it's too late.
Yeah, but it's too late.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know whether they got it checked or whether the person that checked it actually, went up on the roof. I mean, they should. They should go everywhere.
So, Bob, you were talking, you mentioned at the start, like getting somebody to do it, and you can Google them or you can go to handovers.com or there's
we
plenty.
use them, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of places. Do you usually recommend that people go with that person or just get the report and read it?
Look, I've done too many developments to want to hang around while they do it.
Yeah.
So
it's not your first rodeo.
No, but look, if you're new to development and they're okay with it, it'd be good to tag along and just see what they pick up, because people that do that professionally have a really sharp eye and they know what to look for. So for each room in there, they've got a whole list. I mean, they don't just sort of wander around looking for something. They have a list of things to look for and they tick them off.
I reckon I'd be good at it. I pick up stuff like that.
Yeah.
Some things like that I just am good at. I walk in and go, oh, look.
You got the vision of an eagle.
Yeah, sometimes I do. Yeah, well, if I'm ever looking for something to do, maybe that's a position I might look up.
Well,
start a company.
It could be. I won't be joining you on that.
Okay. But hey.
But they go around in each room. They'll mark down the defects. Bedroom 1, bedroom 2, living, kitchen, and so forth. And then they give you the developer that list, and then you present that to the builder.
And what's the builder's response in your experience? Good. Oh, is it always good?
Well, I tend to use good builders. I've been lucky. I mean, not every builder I've ever used has been really good, but generally they are.
Okay.
And a good builder, as I said, they will go through themselves before the handover. But there's still things they'll probably miss.
Have you ever had none? Like there's been none? Okay.
No, never.
Not that good
never.
builder. So those good builders you're talking about are a bit
Well,
rare.
these are tradies as well. Yeah. I mean, it's the trade.
Nothing against your tradies.
It's the trades that do the work, but the builder is responsible. So it's up to the builder. Yeah. And so when the builder gets that list, he will then go through it and pick out the different trades. So what the builder does, he then collates his own list, but in the trade order. So he'll say plumber, and then he might say unit 2, ensuite,
tap upside down.
Tap upside down, whatever. Yeah. And so the plumber will get a list, the painter will get a list, whoever it is will get a list, and then they go back, fix it, and then what you can do, this is what I do. I don't generally go around with the professional person on the first look because I've been there too long. But as I said, if you're new to it, tag along, see what they do.
Do it, yeah.
And what will happen is you can pay them if you want to come back and check to see that everything's been done at the end. But for me, their value is in getting them to find the faults in the first place. I can go back and see if they've been fixed. It's a lot easier. And so I tend to go through with my list and just make sure, that cracked tile behind that tap's been fixed.
Your list is in the list they've given you of the defects that have been fixed.
I think the skill's in finding the faults.
Yeah.
Not so much in seeing if the builder's finished or not.
Yeah.
And so you can do that yourself.
Hang on, are these men? Do they go in and have a man's look?
Well, yeah. But if you've got a list of what should have been repaired, it's a lot easier to say, okay, that run's gone. Yes, that cracked tile's been fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sliding door in the building's been straightened, whereas previously when it touched the jam, there's a bit of a gap at the top. Those sorts of things, easy to do on the way, on the reverse angle. So
I think also there are like some things some people must let go, because do you remember about a year and a half ago we took a group of mentoring students around a property in Brisbane.
Yeah,
and
I remember that.
The finishes on that development were horrendous.
Atrocious. Atrocious.
Horrendous. They were just I was just thought, oh my goodness, I could do a better job painting, but I do enjoy painting.
Wow, and it wasn't just painting.
I
mean they must have been built to a price.
Yep.
They were 3-story townhouses just completed. It was a tough block. Yep. It was a very slopey block, but that's no
excuse for shoddy painting.
The painting was terrible. Even the tiling, it looked like they had the apprentice on the job. And I can remember some of the bricks, inconsistent joints and perps.
Yes.
Just about everywhere you looked, you could find fault.
You know what's funny about that one, because I remembered that one when we decided on this topic. What I found unusual was the actual place wasn't even cleaned up afterwards. Like, if you're going to have an open house, because we went to an open house inspection, you would think that they would have cleaned the windows, they'd staged it, but it was still there was dust everywhere. It was like they'd just finished it 20 minutes before, and maybe they did and didn't get time to do a clean.
Well, that's another, not so much a trade, I guess, but I mean, the builder should, and nearly always does, bring in professional cleaners at the end of a job. They're called final cleaners. They come in. That's their job. There's cleaners that do nothing but final cleans on builds. They don't, come and vacuum your house. That's all they do.
That certainly hadn't happened for that one.
Not on that one.
No. It was terrible.
No, it was terrible.
And like, what are the impacts, Bob, of things like, if we're just talking, we're talking that sort of more finishes. So if we're talking finishes, which will be probably more on the sale, like in that scenario, what would be the impact of that?
Well, would you have bought any of those townhouses? I wouldn't have. Not unless I got a huge discount.
No.
I can even recall us bringing to notice to the agent there some of those faults, and they were embarrassed. I mean, that's a tough gig for an agent,
especially
to have to sell something that looks like that.
If they have competition like beside them and they're selling, and they've got another agent selling close by, which there were quite a few down there, that would be hard work.
That'd be hard work. There's an old saying, you've probably heard me say it. The builders use it. They say, I can build cheap, I can build fast, and I can build to a good finish. Which two do you want? Now, as developers, we'd love all three. We'd love them a really good standard of finish. We'd love them to be cheap, and we'd love them to be fast. But builders say you can't have all three. Choose your two.
I even know a developer that works with us, and he sees the same thing as a developer.
So if you want a really cheap job, don't expect a high quality job, but it might be fast. So it might be cheap and fast. And that's how it works. A cheap job might mean cheaper tradesmen. Cheaper tradespeople.
Or they put their juniors on with not enough supervision, or
yeah.
Bob, what's the worst you've seen? Like the worst you've seen?
It's be a good 15 years ago. I saw some apartments. They were 2-story apartments. They're in a suburb called Redcliffe in Brisbane, and oh my God, like it was considerably worse, if you can believe it.
Are we talking finishes or defects?
Well, I don't know what the defects were, but I'm sure there was a big list of defects. But just going through at the end when it was open with the agent there, I mean, everything was wrong. There was, you go outside, there was expansion joints that were never sealed. I can remember, the brick sill. It should be straight. The brick started off from one angle and sort of tapered off. They probably changed about 10 degrees. By the time you got to the other brick on the end.
Upward or downward or inward?
Well, it's sort of downwards, but like it's got this downward
slope.
Yeah, just looks so weird. And the brickwork was ordinary. It looked like it was a job done by everybody's apprentice.
So what were you doing there? Was it to
like a competition between apprentices, but first year apprentices, not final year apprentices.
Why were you there?
We're actually in the street looking at another project, and we saw the sign out. There's myself and 2 other guys, and we thought, let's go and have a look at this, And it's unbelievable. Like you name it, doors, like sliding doors that were on buildings that were touching at the bottom and probably 1.5 centimetres at the top. Like everything that was wrong.
And was it finished or?
Well, the builder sort of thought it was finished. He was a builder developer, so it wasn't a developer who used a builder. He was from a foreign country, and I don't know quite how he got to get his licence here. But he should have it taken off him. But you see, there's a problem. There's a bad builder who's also the developer, so he's not. As a developer, we check the builder's work.
Right.
But he didn't, because he's both.
He's checking his own. It's like a hairdresser cutting their own hair.
He may not have known how bad it was. I don't know.
Oh, no.
Yeah, pretty atrocious. But, Yeah, yeah, defects, but standards of finish, particularly when you're working in, the upper part of the middle of the market or even, the top end. I mean, it's so critical. I know a builder who builds like middle of the market projects, but he also does upmarket housing. So he does upmarket houses, but like, 3 and 4 pack townhouses in the middle of the market, which is he can because he's licensed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him, I said, do you use the same trades on both of those? And he said, no.
Really?
Yeah. He said, I've got a set of tradespeople for my upmarket houses, and I've got another set on the townhouses. And that doesn't mean the tradies that do the townhouses are bad tradesmen, but they match the quality of the work that's expected in that middle of the market, townhouse market. But, that top end, that expensive housing, people are very discerning. And often the designs are complex, architectural designs. So he has like special painters, special plasterers,
For his upmarket stuff.
Yeah. And they, as I said, they're probably slower and neater and better. Like I never actually met them, but he said, I've got my tiler's German. I don't know whether Germans are good tilers or not. I think Italians are, but anyway, doesn't matter. And I said,
Sounds like a good story.
What's his rate? And his rate was probably only 20-25% above, what would be like the going rate. But he said he does an incredible job.
Is this that builder that we went to the open home of his?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He had the double opening, and they were quite very nice, weren't they?
Yeah. And that's not even his upmarket ones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
But that's the thing, in that upmarket, it's not about speed. It's about quality. And quality costs something. And you can't push it too hard on speed.
So do you think it's like worth considering engaging an architect or a construction manager to overview the construction to ensure that it is, or is that quite costly, or is that something people do?
It costs something. I guess, in a way, you've got to sort of differentiate between, during a build, there's stuff that you end up seeing and there's stuff that you don't. Like I'll just pick a silly example perhaps. Let's say that in a wall frame, let's say you've got, normally the studs, which are the vertical timber members, they're straight up and down, they're 90 degrees. But what if you had, one that was 80 and another one that was 75 and then the rest are okay? I mean, that looks terrible when you look at the frame. But once you've got plasterboard on it,
can't see it.
It doesn't matter anymore. By the same token, it's a shoddy bit of framing. But the stuff you do see, rendering. For quite a few years now, it's been popular to render blockwork or brickwork. And
shoddy rendering looks rubbish.
Oh, yeah. And you see it. When you look straight at the wall, it looks okay. But with rendering, you have to come in from the side on a fairly sharp angle. And that's when you start to see the lumps and you start to see the shadows of a bad render. And that's very difficult to fix.
Bob, do builders get almost known for their workmanship? Is that quite common? It's like, they're often a bit dodge or... Yeah,
they do. I mean, not all builders that build at a good price are shonky or bad quality because some builders do control their work well and do have good trades and are very efficient and can build at a decent price, not the lowest price. But if you think of if you go for the lowest price you can get, you're going to get a builder who probably doesn't take as much care because it's all about price. He's going, in order to get the price, he's going to get the cheapest tradies. There might be a reason why they're cheap. There might be a reason why he can get a plasterer to start tomorrow and not in 2 weeks' time because he hasn't got enough work because he only ever does one job and they don't get him back, So that's how it works. But it doesn't mean the dearest job is the way to go either. Yeah. But you need to look at the quality of builders' work. So on the way through, getting back to your question, you could get the architect who did the designs for you. You could get them. They don't miss you price-wise. It's not something I normally do. But particularly once the finishing trades are in, like the painters and the tilers and those sorts of people towards the end, where you start to see the results. But even plastering, sometimes you see a terrible plastering job where they've gone a little bit shallow, on the joins. They haven't, filled them out properly. And you just see, or particularly on a ceiling, because the ceiling, you often pick it up on a ceiling, or particularly on semi-gloss walls. When you're looking along, it shows up more on a gloss wall. Bad plastering. But those sorts of things should be picked up by a good builder. And a good builder shouldn't... The fact that he is a good builder means generally that he uses good tradespeople.
Back to defects now, what's been the biggest defect you've come across in your experience, your 38 years worth? You've probably come across some doozies. That you caught in time, that didn't miss the defects liability period, or...
Well, no absolute shocker, but I mean, funny things you pick up when they check, let's say roofing. Now, how many people climb up on the roof to have a look at the end of a job? Not many.
No, I don't think anyone would.
No, but I can remember one job where they didn't have enough screws. It was a metal roof. They didn't have enough screws.
Uh-oh.
I mean, it's dictated by the wind rating, how many screws you have, and the spacing of them. And there was a shortage of screws, shall we say. And then, well, that's easily fixed. I mean, the builder has to get his roofie back and put more screws in. But I mean, that in the wrong sort of climate, a bit of a cyclone, a bit of a blow, that could be a bit of an issue, because once you lose your roof, we saw it recently in the floods. When your roof comes off, your ceiling gets wet. Your ceiling collapses.
Someone close by yesterday.
Yeah. So that. Lots of other things, just lots of little things. Doors that are a bit sticky, windows that are a bit... Sliding doors, that's something that often can come out in the following, months afterwards, where they start to grate a bit. The thing is, as a developer, we sell our property either to an owner-occupier or a tenant. And so during that defects liability period, that's 6 months or whatever it happens to be, there's either an owner-occupier or a tenant in there.
Yeah.
And so they can come up because they live there with some faults. And they'd normally, protocol would be for them to contact the managing agent, about the defect. The managing agent then contacts. I always get whenever I finish, I give the builder's details to the owner or the managing agent.
So they don't have to come back to you?
Well, don't come back to me, but I mean, by the same token, I might be nearly always holding a retention. So I need to know about it. I need to know that the builder does come back and fix it. That's all I need to know, because if he doesn't come back and fix it and I'm holding a retention, then I will use that retention to get somebody else to come and fix it.
You've just opened that door, so let's go in there, Bob. So retention's generally 6 months on the defects liability?
Well...
And what's your...
Yeah, well, retentions, for those that don't know, are a sum of money that you hold back from the builder when you pay him. It varies. It can be anything from 5 to 10%. But 5%
of the total build cost.
Of the total build cost. 5% is relatively common. And so at the end of the job, when the builder's finished and he's fixed up the defects at the time, you often reduce that from, let's say, 5% down to 2.5%, and you sit on that money. Now, it's probably part of your loan funds, so it's just sort of sitting in your loan account at the bank. And if there are defects during that defects liability period, you obviously contact the builder, and the builder has to go and fix them. Now, if they refuse to or don't get there or can't or won't or whatever, then you can use that money to get somebody else to come and fix it.
Is there a specific amount of time once they've been notified about a defect that they've got to fix it?
No, generally it's not stated.
So what would be okay for you to decide to get somebody else?
Oh, well, I'd want it in writing. I'd instruct him, 2, even 3 times, get a date out of him. If he misses a date probably twice, good enough for me.
You just get somebody else and then let him know?
Oh, yeah, because there might still be some money left in that account. So that 2.5%...
he just gets the rest.
Yeah, okay. It might be down to 1% after I've paid somebody to fix something. Well, it's still his money.
Yeah.
You're holding his money back on him, so it's not your money to play with. But
Can't go out and buy shoes.
yeah, no. Not all building contracts have a retention, though.
Don't they?
No, some of the smaller resi-type contracts don't, which is a bit of an issue.
Because then you're left responsible for any defects.
Well, he should still come back. But if he doesn't, how hard do you want to chase him? And sure, there's a tribunal in every state, but they're basically
4
a
years long.
dog without teeth.
Yeah.
It's not, for a small job, it's never worth trying to chase a builder through arbitration for a small amount. But that's why it's good to have a retention.
Okay. I think anything else you'd like to finish? If we covered off everything people should know about how important it is, how important a good standard of finish is.
Well, it is because,
development.
you know, if your standard of finish shows and it's not real good, you'll get hammered by the purchaser for far more than you might have saved on that job.
Because people will want discounts. And
They do want discounts, and normally the discount they want is far greater than
the defect.
than to fix the defect in a way. And that's what happens. So, yeah, I mean...
So not just that, you also potentially could lose sales because people will go to other people that can't be bothered with that sort of drama.
And look, if you've done a 4 townhouse project, it could easily be costing you $300 a day in interest. So you want to get the thing sold and settled.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I guess, you know, at the end of the day, choose your builder wisely, go and look at their work, take recommendations from other people, have a look at it yourself, make sure that they do have a good standard of finish and use those builders. And yeah, get a professional in at the end, for sure, to do those final inspections. And yeah, happy developing.
Happy developing. Well, thanks, Bob. Another great, insightful episode, number 40 from you.
Congratulations, by the way, on hitting number 40.
Yes. I don't know, because I'm launching my new podcast soon, which is a little bit different. It's around, it's a bit more female orientated, but sort of mindset. Oh, no, not really. You won't be. I'll be interviewing.
I wouldn't want to be on that one.
It's actually called... From Frozen to Fearless. So
wow.
I know.
Seriously.
It's pretty exciting. And I don't know if people know that, but Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, for those of you, if you don't know him,
Gary v.
Google Gary V. He promised me once that he would be on my podcast episode 101. So will he be on the Property Mastermind podcast, or
it depends
will he be
how
on...
quickly you bang those ones out. You might
I know.
overtake us.
What if I add the two together? I just can't wait. And do I go to America and you know, I always thought that would be the way to do it. I go to him and do the interview, or is it going to be Skype? I would try my hardest to do a face-to-face with him.
When he made you that promise, you flew to New Zealand to see him, to hit him up on stage in front of 5,000 people.
Yes.
You hit him up for that.
Yep. I only flew over there because I knew he was going to offer that, not with the opportunity, let people ask him a question. So I ripped over to New Zealand the day before, got to the front of the queue because so many people missed out. And instead of asking him a marketing question, I asked him that question. And he was like, no, but I will. I said, will you be on my podcast? Which I hadn't even launched then. So there you go.
Cheeky stuff.
All about getting what you want. All about like just achieving, really. Choosing what you like, just like property development. And if you opened our email this week, it was about crawling to walking, a really cute one. But if you do get our email, they are quite good. And Bob writing next week.
That was a cracker you did this.
It was a goodie.
With little Charlie, your grandson.
A little video.
Knocking out 16 steps and staggering all over the place.
But next week is Bob, and Bob's quite cynical and humorous with his writing. So it's your turn to write next week.
As always.
Yeah, can't wait to see it. Or you can't wait to read it. But anyway, we'll end up waffling on for days. It's at the end of episode 40. We hope you've enjoyed it. We've enjoyed recording for you. Remember to look out for our meetups coming up soon. We've moved the dates out just because of what's gone on in Brisbane. So we'll be looking at 9th of April for the first one. And it's what are we calling it? It's a gathering. I can't remember what it's called.
It's almost a party.
Yes, why not? Everything you need
Celebrate.
to know. Being out and about.
Keep your eyes open for that one.
All right. Thank you so much. And we'll catch you next week.
Bye now.
Bye.